The city of New Avalon was alive with noise and motion. Neon signs flickered above streets crowded with merchants, travelers, and workers rushing to finish their day before the cold night winds swept in from the nearby sea. Patrol drones hummed overhead, scanning the crowd for anyone who matched the day's wanted lists. Officer Darius Hale and Officer Leora Trent walked side by side, their armored boots clinking softly against the metallic street panels. Both wore the crisp white and blue uniforms of the New Avalon Patrol Division. It was supposed to be an easy shift, light crowd control and a few routine ID checks. Nothing serious. But then, Darius noticed him. An elderly man in a long, dark coat was moving slowly through the crowd. His steps were steady but unhurried, his eyes fixed ahead, ignoring the noise around him. What caught Darius's attention was not the man's age, but the way people seemed to instinctively move aside for him without knowing why. It was subtle, but there was something about the old man's presence. Calm, powerful, and almost commanding. "Check him out, Darius," said quietly to Leora, tilting his head toward the figure. Leora glanced over. "No ID badge visible. That's against city code. We should stop him." The patrol laws of New Avalon were strict. Every citizen and visitor was required to display a visible identity badge linked to the planetary security network. Without it, you could be detained for questioning. They moved through the crowd, closing in. The old man noticed them coming, but his expression didn't change. He kept walking, his pace never breaking. "Sir," Darius called out, "stop for ID verification." The man kept walking. "Sir," Leora said more firmly, stepping in front of him, "you are required to present identification." The old man looked at them for the first time. His eyes were sharp, the kind that seemed to see straight through a person. His voice, when he spoke, was deep and calm. "I am only passing through," he said. "No need to delay me." "That's not how it works," Darius replied. "Badge, please." The old man sighed softly. "I do not carry one." That was enough. Darius reached out, taking hold of the man's arm. Not roughly, but firmly enough to show authority. The old man did not resist, though for a moment Darius felt as if the arm beneath his grip was made of iron. "You're coming with us," Darius said. The crowd slowed to watch as the two officers began to escort the man toward their patrol station. A few whispers floated through the air, but no one dared interfere. Leora scanned the man's coat with her wrist device, but it returned no match in the security network. "No record," she said. "Either he's off-world without clearance or—" She trailed off, frowning. "Or what?" Darius asked. "Or someone erased him from the system," she said quietly. The man spoke again. "You are making a mistake. I have somewhere important to be." "Everyone thinks they have somewhere important to be," Darius said, tightening his grip. They reached the edge of the patrol station platform. The sleek silver building loomed over them, its scanners already activating to register the new detainee. Suddenly, a group of off-duty dock workers stepped out of a nearby alley. They froze when they saw the old man in the officer's custody. One of them, a tall man with weathered skin, looked pale. "That's impossible," the dock worker whispered to his friend. "That's him." "Who?" the friend asked. The dock worker shook his head slowly, backing away. "We should go. Now!" The officers didn't notice the exchange, but the old man did. His eyes followed the dock worker for a moment before he allowed himself to be guided into the station's holding area. Inside, the air was cooler, the lights brighter. The reception officer at the desk, a young recruit named Kara, looked up. As they entered, "No ID?" she asked. "No ID," Leora confirmed. "No record in the system either." Kara frowned and began entering the details into the station's log. "We'll need to run a deeper planetary scan. Might take a few hours." The old man sat down calmly in the holding room, his hands resting on the table. He seemed entirely unbothered, as if this was a minor inconvenience rather than an arrest. Outside the room, Darius watched through the observation glass. Something about this guy doesn't sit right with me. Yeah, Leora agreed. Too calm. Most people panic when they're brought in. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. It wasn't coming from the station's equipment. It was deeper, almost like the sound of a massive engine far underground. The lights flickered for a moment. The old man looked up at the ceiling, his eyes narrowing slightly. "What was that?" Kara asked nervously. Before anyone could answer, the comms system crackled to life. A stern voice came through, carrying the weight of command. "This is Fleet Command. Secure all entrances immediately. Do not, under any circumstances, detain Admiral Jalen Voss. Repeat, release Admiral Voss at once." Darius and Leora exchanged stunned looks. Kara's hands froze over her console. Inside the holding room, the old man, Admiral Voss, stood slowly, his expression unchanged. "I told you," he said calmly. "You have made a mistake." The station went silent after the transmission from Fleet Command. Everyone in the room stared at each other as the weight of the message sank in. Admiral Jalen Voss was a name spoken with deep respect across the Allied worlds. He was a man whose strategies had saved entire colonies from destruction, whose leadership had united fleets during the Orion Wars. Darius felt a sudden chill run through him. He and Leora had just arrested one of the most decorated military leaders in human history. Kara spoke first, her voice uncertain. "Did I hear that right? Admiral Voss?" "Yes," Leora said, still staring at the holding room. "And we have him sitting in there like a common troublemaker." The old man, Admiral Voss, stood calmly in the center of the room. His hands were folded behind his back, his gaze fixed on the observation glass, as if he knew exactly where they were standing. The door to the holding area slid open. Darius stepped in, unsure of what to say. "Sir, we didn't know." Voss's eyes were steady. "You followed your orders and your city's laws. There is no shame in that." Leora entered behind Darius, her voice quieter. "Fleet Command ordered your release immediately. You're free to go." Voss stepped forward, but instead of leaving right away, he paused in front of them. "What I am about to say is not for everyone's ears. You two, come with me." Darius and Leora exchanged glances. This was highly unusual. Still, something in the Admiral's tone made refusal impossible. They followed him out of the station, leaving a room of confused officers behind. The Admiral walked with purpose through the crowded streets until they reached a quiet plaza near the old starport. The place was almost deserted except for a few vendors closing for the evening. When he finally stopped, Voss turned to face them. "I came to New Avalon for a reason," he said, "and that reason must remain secret until the time is right." "What kind of reason?" Darius asked. "An enemy fleet is on its way," Voss said simply. "One that does not appear in any public records. They have bypassed our outer defenses. In less than 72 hours, they will reach this planet." Leora frowned. "If that's true, why isn't the government preparing? Why haven't they warned us?" "Because only a few of us know," Voss replied. "The enemy uses stealth technology beyond anything our sensors can detect. I discovered their approach by accident during a private patrol mission. Official. Channels are slow, and politics slower still. If I reported this through the normal chain of command, we would lose precious time." Darius crossed his arms. "So you're here alone? In civilian clothes? Walking the streets? That doesn't sound like a military plan." Voss's eyes narrowed slightly. "Sometimes, the best way to move unseen is to appear harmless. My ship is hidden in orbit, cloaked from all detection. But I need ground support to prepare a defense grid here in the city before the enemy lands." Leora exchanged a glance with Darius. "You want us to help you?" "I want people who act quickly and do not hesitate under pressure," Voss said. Your arrest of me proved you are not afraid to act when something feels wrong. That is exactly the kind of person I need." Darius hesitated. This was far beyond his duties as a patrol officer. But the seriousness in Voss's voice, the calm certainty in his eyes, it was impossible to dismiss. "What exactly do you need us to do?" Darius asked. Voss stepped closer. "Tonight, we go to the starport. There is equipment there under fleet control. We will take it and begin setting up a localized shield array over New Avalon's central district. Without it, the first wave of their attack will destroy this city." Leora's brow furrowed. "And if we refuse?" Voss gave the faintest hint of a smile. "Then I continue alone. But the odds of success will be much lower." Darius exhaled slowly. "All right. We're in." The Admiral nodded once. "Good. We move now." They left the plaza and headed toward the starport, sticking to quieter streets to avoid patrol drones. The massive silver arches of the port came into view, towering over rows of landing pads. Most were empty, but a few cargo haulers still rested. There, their crews finishing loading for long-haul runs to the outer colonies. Voss led them to a secure maintenance door near the eastern loading bay. With a flick of his wrist, he produced a small metallic device and pressed it against the door's access panel. The lock disengaged with a soft click. Inside, the corridor was dimly lit and smelled faintly of engine coolant. They passed rows of storage crates until they reached a reinforced chamber marked with the fleet's insignia, a silver eagle over a star field. "This is it," Voss said. "Inside are portable shield generators. Each one can cover an entire city block." They entered, and Darius's eyes widened. The crates inside were filled with advanced military tech, far beyond anything patrol officers handled in their daily duties. Sleek emitters, energy cells, and folded arrays waited in perfect order. Voss began directing them, showing how to detach the generators from their storage mounts. Even at his age, he moved with precision, his hands steady. As they worked, Leora finally asked the question that had been on her mind since the plaza. "Admiral, why here? Why New Avalon?" Voss paused for a moment before answering. "Because the enemy is not here to conquer. They are here to take something, and that something is hidden beneath this city." Darius looked up sharply. "What is it?" Voss's gaze was steady. "A power core from the first expansion era. It is small enough to fit in a shuttle, but powerful enough to run an entire fleet for decades. In the wrong hands, it could turn the balance of the galaxy." Leora's grip tightened on the generator she was carrying. "Then we can't let them take it." Voss nodded. "That is why we prepare." They loaded the generators onto a small transport sled and began moving them toward the city. The streets were quieter now, but every shadow seemed deeper, every sound sharper. Somewhere in the darkness above, beyond the reach of the city lights, an unseen fleet was drawing closer. Voss led on without fear. He had faced worse odds before, but this time, the battle would begin in the heart of a city unprepared for war. And now, 2 patrol officers were about to become part of a defense that could decide the fate of Earth's most important colony. The night air over New Avalon carried the faint hum of distant cargo haulers leaving orbit. Street lights cast pale yellow pools of light across the metallic walkways, and the city's ever-present neon signs glowed in the background. The small transport sled carrying the shield generators moved silently, pushed along by a low-powered grav unit. Admiral Voss walked ahead with a steady pace, while Darius and Leora kept close behind, scanning the streets for anyone watching. They had mapped out 4 priority locations for the shield generators, each one chosen to create an overlapping defensive net over the city's center. The first location was a communications tower on the eastern edge of the market district. From there, a generator could cover multiple key roads and access points. When they reached the tower, Voss knelt beside the generator crate and began unfolding the sleek black emitter panels. "We must be quick. Once these are online, the enemy will detect the energy spike. That will tell them we know they are coming." Leora kept watch while Darius helped secure the mounting frame to the tower's base. The generator hummed softly. As it powered up, its surface glowing faintly with blue lines. Darius stepped back. "It's active." Voss nodded. "Good. Let us move to the next site." They moved deeper into the city toward an old transit station that sat above the underground mag rail lines. The area was quieter now, with only a few late-night travelers passing through. As they unloaded the second generator, Leora froze. "Did you see that?" she whispered. Darius turned. "See what?" There, on the roof. A shadow shifted against the faint glow of the station's roof panels. It was not a bird, and it moved with unnatural speed, vanishing over the far side. Voss's expression hardened. Scouts. They are already here. They activated the second generator quickly, but now the air felt heavier. Every sound seemed amplified. The distant hum of the generators, the click of their boots on the pavement, even the faint rustle of wind through the narrow streets. The third site was the old water processing plant on the city's western ridge. The plant was inactive, its great storage tanks now serving as emergency reserves. They moved through the dark service corridors, their footsteps echoing. Halfway through the installation, a faint metallic clatter echoed from above. Darius raised his head toward the catwalks. "We're not alone," Voss spoke in a low, calm voice. "Leora, keep working on the generator. Darius, with me." They moved toward a side stairwell, climbing slowly until they reached the second level. There, in the dim light, they saw it. A small drone hovering near the ceiling, its frame sleek and angular, nothing like local patrol drones. Its lenses pulsed with red light as it scanned the area. The moment it detected them, it darted away at incredible speed. Voss didn't hesitate. He reached into his coat and pulled out a compact EMP device. A quick press, and a pulse of energy shot through the air. The drone spasmed mid-flight and crashed to the floor, sparks flickering from its casing. Darius knelt beside it. The drone's design was alien, curved plating, strange markings along its surface, and a propulsion system unlike anything Earth manufactured. "They're mapping the city," Darius said. Voss agreed. "And marking our shield positions." Leora's voice came from below. "Generators live." Voss turned toward the stairwell. "Then we have one more to place. Move." The last site was the central plaza near the old government archives. It was a wide, open area surrounded by stonework from New Avalon's founding era. The plaza's central monument, a towering spire of polished steel, stood as a reminder of the colony's history. They worked quickly, setting the generator at the base of the monument where its power field could extend across the entire district. As they finished, Leora glanced up at the night sky. "You think they're watching us right now?" Voss answered without looking up. "I am certain of it." A soft beeping came from his wrist device. He pressed a control, and a small, holographic map appeared, showing 4 glowing circles, the shield generators, now connected into a unified network. "It is ready," Voss said. "When activated, this grid will create a dome over the city center strong enough to repel the first wave of attacks." Darius exhaled in relief. "So we're done?" Voss shook his head. "The hard part begins now. The moment I activate the grid, the enemy will strike sooner. They cannot allow the shield to stand." Before he could continue, the sound of movement echoed from the far side of the plaza. Figures emerged from the shadows. Tall, slender shapes, clad in dark armor that seemed to shift like liquid metal. Their faces were hidden behind featureless helmets, and each carried a long, curved weapon that glinted under the plaza lights. "They're here," Leora said, her hand instinctively moving toward her sidearm. The armored figures advanced in silence, their movements unnervingly smooth. Voss stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. "Darius, Leora, hold your positions. They are not here to fight yet. They are testing us." One of the armored figures stopped a short distance away. The helmet tilted slightly, as if studying them. Then, without a word, the figure raised a small device and tapped it once. A sharp, high-pitched tone filled the plaza, and then the figures melted back into the shadows as quickly as they had appeared. Darius looked at Voss. "What was that?" "A signal," Voss said. "They have confirmed my presence here. The next time we see them, it will not be a test." He turned toward the generator's control panel and placed his hand on it. "Once this shield goes up, we have little time to prepare the rest of the city. Every second will count." Leora's eyes scanned the rooftops. "Then maybe we should move fast." Voss activated the grid. A faint shimmer appeared above the plaza, quickly spreading outward as the generators linked together. Within moments, a nearly invisible dome encompassed the city's central district. From somewhere far above, beyond the thin clouds, a flicker of movement caught Darius's eye. He couldn't be sure, but it looked like a shape, large and sharp, sliding silently across the night sky. The enemy fleet was closer than anyone thought, and now they knew exactly where to strike. The faint shimmer of the shield above the city was barely visible, like heat waves on a summer road. Most citizens walking through the plaza had no idea that an invisible wall now stood between them and an enemy fleet in orbit. To them, the night looked ordinary. For Admiral Voss, Darius, and Leora, it was anything but ordinary. The shield had gone active less than 10 minutes ago, yet Voss was certain the enemy had already made their next move. He stood at the edge of the monument platform, his eyes scanning the rooftops and shadowed alleys. His voice was calm but firm. "They will try to get in before we can strengthen the defenses. That means they are already here." Darius adjusted, the grip on his patrol sidearm. "How?" "The shield blocks ships." "Ships, yes," Voss replied. "But small infiltration teams could have landed before we raised the grid. They would be waiting for a signal to strike. That tone we heard earlier was likely that signal." A sudden crack of static hissed from Leora's comm unit. She tapped the side of her earpiece. "I'm picking up an encrypted frequency. It's not ours." "Track it," Voss said quickly. She pulled up the signal data on her wrist display. "It's coming from the northern residential sector. Moving fast." Voss turned toward the plaza's edge. "That's our target. We move now." They left the plaza at a brisk pace, taking narrow service routes to avoid public areas. The further they moved from the plaza's bright lights, the darker and quieter the streets became. Many buildings here were older, with cracked metal walls and flickering lamps. They reached a narrow street lined with closed shops. The signal on Leora's display grew stronger. Darius slowed, listening. He heard it. A faint mechanical clicking, like small claws tapping metal. It came from above. "Rooftops," Darius whispered. Voss raised a hand for silence. They moved slowly, their eyes sweeping upward. Then a dark figure leapt from one rooftop to another, its armor gleaming faintly in the dim light. The moment it landed, more shapes appeared, moving with the speed and silence of trained hunters. These were no ordinary soldiers. Their armor clung tight to their bodies, designed for stealth. The curved weapons they carried seemed to hum faintly, as though alive. "They're spreading out," Leora said quietly. "They are looking for the core," Voss replied. "They will search building by building until they find it." The nearest infiltrator dropped to the street ahead, crouching low, its helmet tilted toward them. For a moment, no one moved. Then, in a sudden burst, the figure lunged forward. Darius fired first. The blast from his sidearm hit the armor, sparking but not penetrating. The infiltrator rolled aside, drawing its own weapon, a narrow blade that glowed faintly along its edge. Voss moved with surprising speed for his age. He stepped, forward, deflecting the incoming strike with a small, curved shield device he had pulled from inside his coat. The impact made a sharp crack, and the infiltrator staggered back. "Go!" Voss ordered Darius and Leora. "Chase the others. I will handle this one." Darius hesitated for only a moment before nodding. He and Leora sprinted down the street, toward two more figures climbing the side of a nearby building. The chase was fast and chaotic. Leora fired at the rooftop shapes, forcing them to scatter. One leapt down into an alley, landing with a fluid motion and sprinting away. Darius pursued, weaving through crates and low walls. The infiltrator was fast, too fast for a normal human, but Darius kept up, driven by adrenaline. He rounded a corner just in time to see the figure stop at a locked door, placing a strange device on the panel. The lock hissed open instantly. "Not today," Darius muttered, charging forward. The infiltrator turned, swinging its weapon. Darius ducked under the strike and slammed into the armored figure with his shoulder. The two hit the ground hard, the weapon clattering away. Darius tried to pin it down, but the armor was stronger than he expected. The figure twisted, throwing him off. Before it could recover, a sharp shot rang out from the alley's mouth. Leora stood there, her sidearm smoking. The infiltrator froze, then collapsed as sparks erupted from its chest plate. "Nice timing," Darius said, catching his breath. "Don't thank me yet," Leora replied, glancing upward. On the rooftops above, more figures were gathering, moving toward the heart of the city. Meanwhile, back on the first street, Voss was still locked, in combat with his opponent. The infiltrator's blade struck again and again, but the Admiral's shield device deflected each blow with precise, economical movements. He was not simply defending, he was reading the enemy, watching for the smallest mistake. The moment came when the infiltrator overextended. Voss stepped inside the strike and delivered a powerful blow to the helmet with the edge of his shield. The figure fell back, dazed. With a quick motion, Voss activated a stasis field from his wrist device, locking the infiltrator in place. Darius and Leora rejoined him, slightly out of breath. "One down," Darius reported. "But there are more." "I know," Voss said. "They are converging on the central district. That means they believe the core is close to that area." Leora frowned. "Is it?" Voss's expression did not change. "It is. But they do not know the exact location yet. We still have time." A loud, distant rumble echoed through the streets. The sound was not from the city. It came from above. Voss looked up toward the night sky. Through the faint shimmer of the shield, dark shapes were moving. Small dropships, sleek and sharp, were approaching fast. "They are committing ground forces," Voss said. "They know we have activated defenses, so they are accelerating their plan." Darius glanced at the generator's direction. "Will the shield hold?" "Yes," Voss said, "but only if we protect the generators. If they destroy even one, they will have an opening." Leora looked down the street, her jaw tightening. "Then we split up. Each of us takes a sector." Voss gave a single nod. "Agreed. Protect the generators at all costs. If the shield falls, the city will follow." They moved quickly, vanishing into the dark streets, three figures racing against time while, far above, the enemy fleet closed in for the final strike. The shield shimmered faintly above New Avalon like a giant invisible dome. It was holding, but the enemy's dropships were pressing close to its outer edge, testing for weaknesses. The generators pulsed with steady energy at their 4 points, around the city, each one a vital link in the defense grid. Admiral Voss moved quickly through the narrow streets of his assigned sector. His mind was sharp, calculating possible attack patterns. The enemy had learned about the generators during the earlier infiltration. Now they would strike at them directly. He reached the communications tower generator first. Its black emitter. Panels glowed softly, projecting the shield field upward. The surrounding streets were quiet, but Voss could sense the change in the air. A faint vibration, almost like the hum of distant engines. Moments later, a shadow passed overhead. A small, triangular craft dropped through the clouds, its hull shimmering as it forced its way through the shield. Sparks flew as the protective dome resisted the breach, but the ship forced itself through with sheer speed before the shield could stabilize. It landed hard on the street below. The hatch opened, and 4 armored enemy soldiers stepped out. They moved quickly toward the generator, weapons ready. Voss didn't hesitate. He activated the small shield device on his forearm and moved forward. His first strike caught one soldier, off guard, slamming the shield into the soldier's chest and sending them sprawling. The others fanned out, firing bursts of bright energy that hissed against the tower's walls. The admiral moved with controlled precision, deflecting shots and countering with swift, powerful strikes. Each movement was deliberate, no wasted energy. Within moments, 2 soldiers were down. The last pair hesitated, then retreated toward their ship. Voss called out sharply, "You will not return!" He pulled a small sphere from his coat and tossed it toward the dropship. The device latched onto its hull and exploded in a flash of light, disabling the craft's engines. The soldiers scrambled away as smoke poured from the damaged ship. The generator was safe, for now. Far across the city, in the western ridge sector, Darius was sprinting through the old water plant's service corridors. The sound of metal boots echoed ahead. He rounded a corner and saw enemy soldiers working on the generator's control panel, trying to shut it down. "Not happening," Darius muttered. He fired his sidearm, hitting one soldier square in the shoulder. The shot knocked them back, but the others turned and fired in return. Darius dove behind a storage crate, the energy blasts sizzling against its surface. He popped up, firing again, this time aiming for the enemy's weapons. 2 shots struck true, sending the curved rifles clattering to the ground. Without their ranged advantage, the soldiers closed in. Darius switched tactics, meeting the first attacker with a hard punch to the helmet, then a kick to the leg that sent them crashing down. The second soldier swung a blade, but Darius ducked under it, grabbing the attacker's arm and using their own momentum to throw them against the wall. Breathing hard, Darius checked the generator. The enemy had damaged some external wiring, but it was still functional. He quickly rerouted the connections using a basic repair kit from his patrol belt. The hum of the shield returned to full strength. Meanwhile, in the northern sector, Leora was dealing with her own assault. She had taken position on a rooftop overlooking the plaza where her generator stood. Below, 3 enemy soldiers advanced, cautiously scanning the area for defenders. She took careful aim with her sidearm and fired, hitting the lead soldier in the chest. The shot staggered them but didn't break the armor. They looked up, spotting her position, and immediately returned fire. Leora rolled aside as energy blasts tore through the rooftop edge. She fired back, forcing them to spread out. One tried to rush the generator, but she anticipated the move. Leaping down from the rooftop to intercept, the landing was rough, but she kept her balance. The enemy soldier swung at her with a curved blade. She blocked with her forearm guard and countered with a quick strike to the helmet, then swept the attacker's legs out from under them. The other 2 soldiers moved in, but she kept the fight close, denying them room to aim properly. With fast, sharp strikes, she drove them back until they retreated into the shadows. For a moment, the city was quiet again. The generators still pulsed with steady energy. The shield dome above glowed faintly against the night sky. But Voss knew this was only the first wave. Through his comm unit, his voice came steady and controlled. "Status report," Darius replied. "First, Western Ridge secure, minor damage repaired." Leora followed. "Northern sector clear for now. No major damage." Voss gave his own report. "Eastern tower secure. Enemy dropship disabled. We are holding, but they will try again. Prepare for heavier resistance." As if on cue, the night sky lit up with streaks of light. More enemy dropships were descending, not small infiltration craft, but larger troop carriers. They slammed into the shield, sending ripples across its surface. Some bounced off, retreating into the clouds, but others pushed through, losing speed and armor in the process, yet still managing to breach. Voss's tone sharpened. They are committing their full assault. Hold your positions. Do not let them reach the core. The streets erupted into chaos as the new wave of soldiers spread through the city. Civilians screamed and fled toward shelters. Patrol units across New Avalon scrambled to respond, many not even knowing who or what they were fighting. Darius tightened his grip on his sidearm. Leora adjusted her stance, ready for another fight. Voss activated his forearm shield again, his eyes fixed on the street ahead. The battle for New Avalon had truly begun. The night sky above New Avalon glowed with streaks of light from incoming ships. The shield still held, but the enemy was no longer testing its strength. They were forcing their way through in larger numbers. Admiral Voss stood at the base of the eastern generator tower, watching the ripples of energy roll across the shield dome. He could tell the enemy had changed their plan. The wave of soldiers was not moving toward the generators this time. They were spreading out, searching for something else. His comm unit crackled. Darius's voice came through. "Admiral, we have movement in the lower districts. They are not heading for my sector's generator. They are moving toward the old transit lines." Leora spoke next. "Same here. I have visuals on 2 units moving underground. This is not random. They have a specific route." Voss's mind worked quickly. The only target worth bypassing the generators for was the central power core hidden beneath the city. It was a massive energy source that fed not only the shield, but also the defense weapons and emergency systems. If the enemy disabled it, New Avalon would be completely exposed. "Confirmed," Voss said calmly. "They are going for the power core. All units, follow their route. We stop them before they reach it." The streets were no longer safe, so the team entered the underground access tunnels. Voss led through the eastern hatch. Darius moved from the west, and Leora dropped down from the north sector. The tunnels were dimly lit, their old metal walls covered with markings from years of disuse. The faint hum of the city's systems echoed through the narrow passages. Voss moved with the steady pace of someone who knew time was short, but understood that rushing blindly was dangerous. His steps were silent on the metal grating. He kept one hand near his forearm shield and the other ready to activate his portable light. In the western tunnels, Darius moved with practiced skill, scanning each intersection before crossing. He spotted faint heat signatures on his wrist scanner. Enemy. Troops were ahead, moving in formation. They were disciplined and fast, likely an elite strike unit. He whispered into the comm. "I have visual on the target unit. 4, maybe 5 soldiers. They are heading for Junction C9. Voss replied, "Do not engage alone. We will converge on them from 3 directions." Leora's voice came in from the north sector. "Understood. I can cut them off from the maintenance shaft if I move now." The team's plan came together in silence. Each member moved into position, using the tunnel's shadows to stay hidden. The enemy soldiers ahead seemed unaware that they were being tracked. As they neared the C9 junction, the sound of heavy machinery grew louder. Old generators for the transit lines hummed faintly in standby mode, casting the area in a pale, flickering light. Pipes and cables lined the walls, creating natural cover. Voss reached the junction first and signaled for Darius and Leora to close in. Through a narrow gap between 2 crates, he saw the enemy soldiers. Their armor was darker and more compact than the standard units, designed for stealth and speed. Each carried a compact device that Voss recognized instantly, a power destabilizer. One of those placed on the core could shut it down completely. Leora took position above the junction on a service platform. From there, she could see the enemy clearly. They moved with precision, scanning every corner before advancing. Darius approached from the opposite tunnel, keeping low and silent. He tapped his comm once to signal he was ready. Voss gave the order. "We stop them here." The first move was subtle. Leora dropped a small sensor disc onto the floor near the enemy. It emitted a faint, high-pitched tone that made the soldiers glance toward it in confusion. That was all the opening they needed. Voss stepped out from cover, activating his shield to block the lead soldier's advance. Darius came in from the side, cutting off their retreat. Leora moved down from the platform, blocking the last exit. The strike unit reacted fast. They formed a tight circle, protecting the soldier carrying the largest destabilizer device. Voss focused on that one, pressing forward to force them away from the central corridor. Darius kept the others distracted, moving with quick sidesteps, to avoid their attempts to push through. Leora moved with sharp, calculated strikes, knocking one soldier off balance and sending their device sliding across the floor. Darius caught it and tossed it to Voss, who secured it in a shielded pouch on his belt. The strike unit began to fall back, realizing their path to the core was blocked. One of them tapped their wrist device, sending out a faint pulse. Voss knew. It was a signal for reinforcements. "Move them away from the main route," Voss ordered. They pushed the enemy toward a side tunnel, limiting their options. The strike team tried to break formation, but the three defenders worked together seamlessly, controlling the flow of the fight. Eventually, the enemy withdrew deeper into the side tunnel, abandoning the mission in that sector. Voss exhaled slowly. One group down, but they will have others. Darius scanned the area. "We need to check the other access points to the core. They might try again from a different direction." Leora agreed. They were too well coordinated to be acting alone. This was part of a larger plan. They moved quickly through the tunnels, following the map on Voss's wrist display. The underground network stretched for kilometers, with multiple possible routes to the power core. They had to guard them all with limited time and resources. At one narrow choke point, they found evidence of another strike team, scattered tools, a dropped communicator, and fresh boot prints in the dust. Voss crouched to examine them. The prints were smaller, lighter. This was likely a scout team sent ahead to mark the safest path. "They are already mapping the way," he said. "If the next wave follows these marks, they will reach the core in minutes." Without hesitation, they began erasing the scout marks and replacing them with false indicators that would lead the enemy into dead ends or back toward the surface. It was a silent game of misdirection, and every second counted. As they worked, the ground shook slightly. A deep, rhythmic thump echoed through the tunnels. Darius glanced at Voss. "That's heavy machinery. Could be a drill unit. If the enemy was using a drill vehicle, they could bypass the tunnels entirely and break directly into the core chamber." Voss activated the city's emergency seal protocols. Massive blast doors began sliding into place across the larger tunnels. The sound of the locks engaging echoed like distant thunder. "Core chamber now sealed," the Admiral said. "They will have to get through us first." The three defenders took position near the final approach tunnel. The hum of the core's massive energy field could already be heard ahead. The air was warmer here, and faint light glowed along the walls from the power conduits. They waited in silence, ready for whatever came next. The battle for the heart of New Avalon was not over, but they had bought the city precious time. The tunnel was quiet, except for the low hum of the power core ahead. The walls pulsed softly with energy, casting a pale blue light that made the shadows dance. Admiral Voss, Darius, and Leora stood side by side, their faces serious and determined. They knew what was coming. The enemy would not stop until they reached the core. If the core fell, New Avalon's shield would fail, and the entire city would be vulnerable. Voss looked at his team. "This is our final defense. We hold here no matter what." Darius nodded. "We will not let them through." Leora adjusted her gear. "We have prepared for this moment." The minutes passed slowly, each second stretching like hours. Outside, the city's lights flickered as the shield absorbed repeated attacks. The vibrations shook the ground beneath the tunnel. Suddenly, distant sounds echoed down the corridor. Heavy footsteps, the shuffle of armor, and the faint buzz of advanced technology. "Here they come," Voss said calmly. From the darkness, enemy soldiers appeared. They moved swiftly, their faces hidden behind sleek helmets. Their weapons glowed faintly in the tunnel light. This was no ordinary attack. These were the enemy's best, trained for stealth and strength. Voss raised his forearm, shield, its surface shining as it powered up. Darius and Leora took their positions ready to defend. The first soldier charged forward, but Voss met him with a firm shield bash. The impact sent the attacker stumbling back. Leora fired a precise shot that forced another to take cover. Darius moved with quick, controlled strikes, disarming one enemy and pushing another away. The fight was close and intense. Each defender moved with purpose, blocking attacks and countering quickly. The enemy pressed hard, but Voss's experience and the officer's courage kept them steady. Suddenly, a shadow appeared at the tunnel entrance. A large vehicle, silent but powerful, rolled forward. It was a drill unit designed to break through heavy barriers. Voss's eyes narrowed. "The drill! We cannot let it reach the core!" Darius shouted. "We need to stop it!" Leora scanned her gear and pulled out a compact energy net. She tossed it toward the drill. The net expanded quickly, wrapping around the vehicle's wheels and slowing it down. Voss moved forward, pressing a button on his wrist device. A pulse of energy surged from his shield, striking the drill's controls. Sparks flew and the drill shuddered to a stop. With the drill disabled, the enemy soldiers hesitated. They regrouped, preparing for a final push. Voss spoke with calm authority. "Stand firm. We hold this line." The battle continued with renewed intensity. The defenders fought with skill and determination. Though outnumbered, they used every advantage, from the narrow tunnel walls to their quick teamwork. After what felt like an endless struggle, the sounds of enemy reinforcements arriving echoed through the tunnel. Voss tapped his comm. "Backup is on the way. Hold your positions." Minutes later, the sound of heavy footsteps and familiar voices filled the tunnel. Patrol units and fleet marines poured in, reinforcing the defenders. With fresh support, the tide of the battle turned. The enemy soldiers were pushed back, their attacks faltering. Finally, the last enemy withdrew, disappearing into the shadows. The tunnel fell silent. Voss lowered his shield and looked at Darius and Leora. "We have won this battle, but the war is not over." Darius wiped sweat from his brow. "We stopped them from reaching the core. The city is safe." Leora nodded. "Thanks to your leadership, Admiral." Voss smiled faintly. "It was a team effort. Remember this: courage and unity will protect us better than any shield." As dawn broke over New Avalon, the city slowly returned to life. The invisible shield remained strong, guarding its people. The old general's mission had succeeded, but new challenges awaited. Together, they would face whatever came next.